Previously on Next Level Conversations.
You'll struggle just to show up.
I know.
For real, it's a real struggle to be present in life right now.
We're embarking on change. I think you have to recognize a why.
I want to be whole. I want to be healed. I want to be healthy. I want to live.
And sometimes you just need a person that cares.
Finding people that could relate and in that specific moment.
Okay.
People that you love, you learn. So when you take the time to learn them, when they're off, they may tell you that they're okay. But because you've taken the time to love them and to learn them, you know that they're really not. So you can give them the attention that they need.
The growth mindset isn't I'm just going to keep growing. It's I know I'm going to fail. I'm going to be discouraged. I'm going to be unmotivated.
Build a house in the negativity. Ask yourself, what can I get from it? How can I use it? How can I grow from it, with it? Whatever, just so you can take whatever it is that you're experiencing and allow it to serve you. You get the choice.
An action plan. That's where you call your friend, your coach, your therapist, your people, and you get some support, right? We have to be real about the fact that we need a push, we need accountability, and change is this daily.
When I started my purpose journey in 2016, one of my main goals was to become mentally healthy. But I admit that I had no clue what that meant at the time. After being on this journey for over 8 years, some days I still struggle with what a mentally healthy and balanced me looks like. But I've learned one thing for sure. Your mental health has a profound impact on your daily life. And from day to day, it can be hard to navigate. As we step into a new year and a new season, I want to help you create a mental foundation that will assist you in your journey forward. And that is why I'm excited about talking with all of our guests this month. Tonight, I am joined on the couch by Patrick LeBlanc, the founder of Bridging the Gap Foundation, whose mission it is to make mental health treatment options accessible to underserved individuals and their families. Patrick LeBlanc is an advocate for mental health. After spending over 15 years working with mental health facilities in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, Patrick knows the value of identifying signs of concern before a crisis occurs. He holds a Master's of Arts in Christian Education from Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary and a Master of Biblical and Theological Studies from the Dallas Theological Seminary, and is currently pursuing his Doctor of Ministry. He holds a level 1 professional certification in trauma and resilience from Florida State University and is a certified mental health first instructor. Patrick, thank you so very much for joining us on this evening.
Girl, I'm honored to be here. I'm just overwhelmed. Thank you for the invitation. I look forward to our time together.
Well, I am glad, and you are such a distinguished and just gentle individual.
Wow!
And I am truly excited about talking with you on tonight.
Okay, all right.
So last week we started our mental health awareness conversation, just taking some questions from the audience that they have from me, and I want to get into some of those questions with you a little bit.
Okay.
What I first want to ask you, what exactly is mental health?
Well, mental health, I like to call it mental wellness. Okay. So mental health, mental wellness is a person's individual ability to deal with the normal stresses of life. They can cope with that. They can handle that. They can still be a productive citizen. They can go through life regardless of what's going on. Not saying they don't have depression, they don't have anxiety, but those normal stressors, they can be contributed to society, they can be fruitful, they can be productive, but yet and still they know how to manage their mental wellness.
Okay. So let me ask you this. What causes what we call mental illness?
There are a lot of things. It could be society things. There could be things from our culture. But you got microaggressions, you got discrimination, you got bullying, you got socioeconomic issues, things they call social determinants of health, where a person may not have adequate drinking water, shelter, or even food scarcity. So these things all combine. And then anxiety, when you look at the definition of anxiety, anxiety is not being able to control what's going to happen in the future. Have you ever wondered why, you're going to the doctor, you got that, you go, you get your exam, and they say, "Oh, we need you to come back." Yeah. All right. Or you go and you've been to the doctor countless times. You've been to the dentist. For me, it's the dentist. And when I leave home, my blood pressure is fine. But when I get to the dentist, they check my blood pressure. My blood pressure is high. Just that anxiety, not knowing what's going to happen in the future. So those things like that really impact our mental health.
Wow. And I know that mental health is, for you personally, is a very big thing because you yourself have struggled with mental health issues. Can you talk with us a little bit about some of your struggles?
Yeah, it was something that, was a problem for years, and really because of the stigmas and the phobias of the things that we have, especially in the African American community, with being an African American male, and who I was or who I thought the community thought I was, and I just couldn't show what I thought at the time was a sign of weakness. So I masked it, I dealt with it, but just like any other kind of weight, here's something, here's another stressor, here's another one, here's another one, here's another one. And I don't care where you are, after so long, it's just going to be too much for you to carry that load. So what happened for me was I ended up in Baylor Medical Center in the ER, and they are trying to place nitroglycerin under my tongue because the bottom number of my blood pressure was like 185. So that let me know right then that this is something that I can't handle, but because of, again, who I was, things I've been taught from the church and from my parents, this is something that we don't talk about. This is something we deal with. I have a presentation that's called "It's a White Thing." Black folks don't go to therapy. Okay, so I didn't do all that. Even being in the mental health field for all these years, I just masked it. But it just kept having some other adverse effects to my health. I tried to camouflage it. I started to self-mutilate. I have cuts on my arm while I was a cutter. Really just trying to not think about all the stuff that was going on because I had to focus now on these other injuries on my body, and realize that was counterproductive. That wasn't helpful. So I realized that, you know what, I need to reach out and get a therapist.
And this was as an adult. These were not issues that you had as a child growing up.
No.
And I want hold on one second, because I want to dive into, because you touched on something that I really wanted to talk about tonight. But let's step back just for a second. Did you suffer or did you have any mental health issues growing up? And if so, how did you and your family deal with just the issues that arose in life?
I grew up in North Louisiana, and during that time, there were some subtle signs of still racism and discrimination, and we just had to learn how to deal with it. We were discriminated when we tried to play football. There were times when the Louisiana State Troopers had to escort us back to the highway, we were taught that you got to deal with it. Bow your neck. You got to be a strong Black man, and you got to deal with it.
Bow your neck.
Bow your neck. Bow your neck.
That's a new one.
Well, yeah, it's just a little acronym we have on the football field. You just need to bow your neck to be a little bit stronger. So we had to do that, and I think as growing up, and when I got to Dallas in the late '80s, again. I had some people that I thought they didn't look like me, that appeared to be friendly. But when things, they had the opportunity to show their true colors, I realized just who they were. And so again, here it is, I'm beat down, I'm oppressed, I'm discriminated against because of who I am. And so, yeah, it was direct. Must do it. Y'all can do it. You can handle it. They realized what it was, but we were just taught that you just don't say nothing.
And I grew up in a Pentecostal household.
Okay. Okay.
So I 100% understand where you're coming from.
Right. Yeah.
And we didn't talk about the issues in our life, our daily life, because life is rough and there are things that happen that we learn to just suppress and we suppress and we suppress. And you said something earlier that if you don't deal with it, it doesn't matter how strong you are. Eventually, it's going to show itself.
Sooner or later, it will. It will. And people think that, okay, I made it through this time. I made it through that time. This is the 12th time, and I keep making it and I keep making it. But sooner or later, the weight of all of that load is going to have an adverse effect on your physical. And then you'll realize that, I mean, they're just connected. Our mental health and our physical health is both things that we just both need to make sure we're taking care of.
How did you, as a strong man, to a man in the ministry, in the church, I don't know if you were married at the time and maybe a father, but how did you get to a point where you started to self-mutilate?
Well, at the time, I was married and I was in the ministry, and that was my relief mechanism. I just could not understand why these things were going. You know, I'm praying and things are not happening like I think they should be. You know, and I believe God has never left me. He's never forsaken me. But I just didn't feel like things were going like I wanted them to. And maybe things caused my first marriage to fail, simply because of the fact that, you know, I'm doing things now that are just not, number one, husband-like, and number two, not representing who God really is in my life.
And this is, and when you say you're doing things now, you're not. Are you talking about the cutting?
Yeah, talking about.
And what type of thoughts did you have?
I had thoughts of suicide ideation. I really did. I can vaguely, just clear as day, remember my grandmother passed away, my father's mother, and for whatever reason, you know, they were, you know, giving away her things, and I got her gun, 38 caliber pistol, and I remember it like it was yesterday. I'm sitting with my wife and my children are in the house, and I'm sitting with my back up against the cedar fence, and I was there, Shante. I was there.
What stopped you?
I mean, I think God just spoke to me and just said, you know, I told you, you know how I'm going to always be with you. I mean, regardless of the good, the bad, you know, and just really just recognizing the fact that I wasn't alone. I thought I was alone. It felt like I wasn't alone. Because, you know, every night we need a little Jesus in the flesh. You know, we need someone to, you know, so I felt that way. But, you know, once, you know, I've always had a relationship with him. I've always been pretty strong in my faith. And I just didn't. And so but it let me know that you need to do something different. You need to get some help.
That's what I was going to ask you. And I want to just step back just for a little bit because you're so right.
Okay.
In the church, we're taught to pray, we're taught to fast, we're taught to worship, but we are not taught to talk.
And I think that's because for whatever reason, I mean, and I'm not going to, you know, try to blame any theological teacher that we've had, any pastor that we've set up on, we've set under. But if we really examine the scripture, there are characters throughout the Bible that exhibited mental health challenges.
David more than anybody.
Okay, and let's think about Elijah.
Yeah.
After that great victory, he's sitting up under that juniper tree praying for God to take his life. And I tell brothers all the time, many of us, if we open and honest, we spend some time under that juniper tree. I'm writing my dissertation on Jeremiah, specifically Jeremiah chapter 20. If you look at verse 13, he's giving God all kind of praise. In the very next verse, in verse 14, he's praying that he would have died in his mother's womb. Curse the man that brought the news that of my conception to my father. You know, not verse 15, not verse 17, but the very next verse. So because they don't have, I guess, mental health defined in the Bible, but if you look at what mental health and the diagnosis we have of today, those are clear signs that there were people throughout the Bible that were suffering from mental health challenges. Ezekiel, Job, They all were there. We just pay attention and look. Jesus in the garden. Okay, Lord. I mean, he just had this anxiety. You think about somebody that's sweating water and blood. Come on now. Come on.
So how do you, let's talk about you before we talk about everybody else. How did you get to the point? How did you make that transition and step past, and I say step past the church, but it's you almost have to step past the church and step past the stigma of the church and what it looks like. How did you get to the point that you had to just, I need help?
Yeah, I mean, it really came to the fact that I just really had to think about me. I mean, what I had been taught, again, I'm not going to disvalue any of the teaching, but I learned the value of self-care. And I tell people today, self-care is not selfish. And a lot of times that's what we think, but their friend, Ms. Paul Conway, he always talks about what does the help do when the help needs help?
Yeah.
And so I just made a conscious decision that I'm going to try to put more attention, not that I'm going to neglect anybody else that's important in my life, but I'm going to intentionally think about Patrick and not be concerned about what other people say, because that was a big thing for me. I'm worried about how Shantae, how John, Bob, whoever, how they think of me, how they perceive me. And, that's up to you. I got to do what is right for and what's going to be best for Patrick.
And so what were your steps? What did it look like?
The first thing was just talking, like you mentioned earlier. I mean, because until a person acknowledges that they have some issues, you're not going to change or alter help-seeking behavior. So we have to first acknowledge that there were some issues. And so that was my first thing. So I first to myself, and then I became more comfortable sharing my story to other people, especially to other Black men, because of who I am. Yes, I'm diagnosed clinically depressed. Yes, I have these issues. Yes, I've had suicide ideation. But as you read, I got 2 masters. Yeah. I'm working on my doctorate. I have this foundation. I've been married, love my wife. We've been married 25 years. Life is good. Do I still have challenges? Do I still have days when I have some anxiety and depression? Absolutely. But now I know better how to cope with that. I know. My girlfriend died on February the 10th. My mom, oh, that's my girl. And around February 8th, 9th, Shantae, I can feel it. But now I know how to deal with it, as opposed to a few years ago. I just shut down. Yeah, I just shut down. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And let's talk about bridging the gap and what it is that you're doing in the community. And we're going to talk a little bit more about it later on. But why don't you just tell us about bridging?
Because of my own personal struggles and things that I was dealing with, and again, seeing the landscape of mental health in Dallas-Fort Worth, that was my motivator, my propter to do something that we could have a better impact. Again, in scripture, behold, I looked for a man that would stand in the gap, and I found none. So I said, you know what, God, I'm going to do this. I didn't know how. I still don't know how. I'm learning how. But it kind of prompted me that I wanted to make sure that if Shantae, if anybody wanted to have access to mental health, but finances is a barrier, because there are several barriers, but that's one of the biggest barriers, because mental health services are expensive. Treatment is very expensive. But I wanted to alleviate or bridge that gap between you getting these services. So I said, you know what, we need to create some kind of way that a person can be able to access the service. So we came up with the foundation. And if you want to go to get treatment, our foundation will pay for 10 counseling sessions with a therapist. Yeah, so we got our nonprofit number on March 13th, 2020. And in the day the nation shut down, and I'm like, oh God, what are you doing now? I mean, I don't have any money. I can't do anything. And girl, he's just been continuing to prove himself. Our first year, 2021, we had one therapist that saw my vision, and we saw 2 clients. We paid for 20 sessions that first year, 2021. 2022, and for 126 sessions. You know, things are going, let's budget for maybe 200 sessions. We had 18 therapists, we had 78 clients, and we funded 403 sessions.
Wow.
Girl, it was nobody but God. I'm telling you, because we budgeted for 200, and he just kept making a way. The phone is still ringing. We're looking to do in excess of 600 this year. Just trying to make sure we can bridge that gap and connect somebody to some therapy so that we can have some better outcomes for their life.
Other than, I know we talked about some of the reasons that I know a lot of the African American community doesn't go to therapy. Okay. And we consider it inaccessible. And I know funding, the finances is one. What do you think based upon what it is based upon the work that you've been doing, your life and the people you've talked with, what do you think is some of the additional reasons that our communities are lacking in mental health and we're not going to therapy?
Yeah, a lot of it is the stigma that's associated with it. We don't want to appear weak, especially as African American men. You know, society and our culture thinks it's a sign of weakness.
And women.
And okay, all right. And so, but then the other thing is when it comes to our spirituality, we've been taught that Shantae, you just need to pray.
Yeah.
Shantae, you got some unconfessed sin in your life. It's something you've done. You need to get right with God, so on and so forth. So again, that's been ingrained in us. And not that we don't need to pray. Prayer can fix anything. I believe that. But if you have some other resources, if you've been diagnosed with cancer, you're going to do more than pray. Okay, so why can't you do that same way with your mental health as you do with your physical health? And so I think historical, there are some things that have happened in history. We all know about the Tuskegee experiment. So African Americans have been untrusting of the healthcare system. Those are some issues. I think the fact that we're worried about, again, what people are going to say, but also resources. There are, depending on where you live, and that, again, that's why we bridge the gap. For instance, here in Dallas, people on the south side of downtown have mental health challenges. People on the north side have mental health challenges, but the people on the north side have better access to care than those on the south side.
Do you think it's just a finance thing, or do you think that, what do you think it is?
I just think it's systemic.
I'm not going to talk.
Okay, yeah.
I don't want nobody in my business.
Look, to finish this comment, audience, what stays in this house, what happens in this house stays in this house.
And that's how we were raised.
Right. We did. And we all know who Uncle Joe is. You go down the hall, he in the room, second room to the left. We all know all about that. But it's just things that we have been ingrained. And because it's been happening so long, for generations, we think that this is the way we should live, not knowing that there's a better way.
And I think we are doing the younger generation a disservice. Because I was reading a study that said about 75% of young adults with mental health problems are not in contact with mental health services.
Right.
And it's not that it's not available. It's because.
Yeah, I mean, because you got to think, who's going to take them? Who's going to be responsible for getting them there? And then, of course, who's going to be responsible for that payment? So again, the financial piece, but also, case in point, I had a parent I was dealing with, and social services got involved, and we were talking back and forth, and I told the social worker that he's been diagnosed ADHD. She said, Mr. LeBlanc, he's not ADHD, he's just BAD. So that's what we think, that it is not a mental health issue, but it is a behavioral issue. And so, we have our ways in our community of dealing with bad behavior, but we have to realize that sometimes it's more than that, Shantae. It's more than that. Yeah.
And that's the reason why the work that you're doing with bridging the gap is so important.
Yeah.
And so essential, because we really do, we need to break the stigma
right.
Of just you know, and not trusting people. And I get it, but believe me, I had an issue. I had an issue with it when when I started my journey. I was like, I'm not going to talk to anybody. Right.
And the thing that people don't understand, you know, there are some bad therapists out there, but there are also some bad physicians out there.
Yeah.
And if you don't like your primary care doctor, if you don't like your OBGYN, what do? You change them. The same rules apply when it comes to a therapist. You need to keep going until you find a therapist that fits you. And so a lot of people, you know, don't look at it like that. And it's the same with medication. You know, this high blood pressure medicine makes me this, and this medicine makes me do this, and this one upsets my stomach. And we go tell our doctor, can you change my medication? And he does. If you're on medication, psychotropic drugs, they have tons of them out. I don't like the way this one makes me feel. Can we do another one? But we have one bad experience with a therapist or anything with a psychotropic drug or psychology related, and we just want to cut it. Yeah. And then now that bad experience just spreads like COVID. It just spreads. And then now I told you not to go. You shouldn't have went. You know, and there we go.
No, you weren't. You sound like my mom.
Yeah. I told you not to go to
Sound like my mama. Well, and I love, for whatever reason, I'm constantly always trying to call you Dr. Patrick.
Oh no.
But thank you so much for coming by and talking with us. We're going to continue our conversation.
All right.
But we have another young lady going to and we're going to talk with her, and then if it's okay with you, I'm going to let my audience ask you a couple questions as we continue our conversation, and also be able to show our audience how they themselves can support Bridging the Gap Foundation. But we will take that up when we return right after this.
You might look at me and make a few assessments. She's happy, she looks put together, she's a professional, she's a leader, and many other judgments. And I would respond that all of those things are true. But a few years ago, you would have created a completely different list. God told me a sovereign secret. He said, the power to create is yours. Because before then, I lived in black and white, always ensuring I blended in and kept myself as small as possible. So what snapped me out of it? I got a vision and I took action. In particular, I visualized and reimagined who I am in every aspect of life, from dressing to talking, living, being passionate, and demonstrating confidence. I mean, every part of life I visualized. Then I took steps to become the person that I envisioned. And I created Next Level from that same passion, to help women ready to cross that bridge, get a vision of themselves, and take action to be who they know they want to be. What we do is we equip women with the tools they need to navigate their journey. You'll hear from and engage with others that have successfully managed challenging situations. And the beauty is, you will get help from people who are willing to help you turn your dream into reality. So you are never alone. Can you imagine getting support from women that you look up to? And once you make it to the other side, you can look back and realize that you went from a chaotic state of existing to a balanced life worth living. You are Next Level.
Studies show that about half of all of our lifetime mental illnesses begins by age 14 and 75% by the age of 24, making this a critical group for the onset of mental health problems. Whether preparing for higher education, starting a new job, or joining the military, teens are entering or navigating a new stage of life, which comes with intense emotions and feelings, often increasing the risk for mental health concerns. This time of life comes with the desire to be independent, making it a critical time for you as a parent to understand what your child is going through and how it may be affecting their mental wellness. Joining us tonight via Zoom for the first time is Meera Phanse. Meera is an emotional wellness coach for teens. She is currently studying psychology at Baylor University. Meera, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course. Thank you for having me on the podcast. I'm really excited to talk about mental health today.
How are you this evening coming all the way from Baylor?
It's going good. The semester has just started. So, yeah, the stress levels are definitely, there, but, that's why mental health is important.
Well, before we get into recommendation, I want to talk just a little bit about your mental health journey. Can you tell us a little bit about how, as a young person, how your journey and how you and your family dealt with mental health issues coming up?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for me, my mental health journey, I feel like started at a pretty young age, even though I didn't really know it at the time. I had a pretty big move when I was in middle school, and I moved like basically all the way down from the north to Texas. And that move was pretty jarring for me because I had to make new friends, and I was also in middle school, and anyone who knows what middle school is like is not great to start off with. But also it's just a very isolating experience, I think, when you're trying to fit in, but then also trying to, create a core group of people when you don't really know anyone. And I hadn't realized it then how much that had affected me until COVID. And I think that period of time where everyone was quarantining, especially people that were teenagers at the time. I was in high school personally when that happened. And for me, after all of that had happened, all those isolating and frankly depressing episodes had happened, that time I really took to reflect on myself. And I realized that solitude was almost healing. But for a lot of my friends, that wasn't really the case. And so that's how I feel like I was able to get closer to people and why mental health became so important to me. Because even though I was in the process of overcoming a lot of the things that I had previously gone through, the people around me and the people I loved were struggling with that. And I realized that that was something that I felt called to because I felt like I was able to recognize that within myself and bring awareness to it. But then also, kind of what Mr. LeBlanc was talking about, a lot of my friends, like me, are South Asian, and we have immigrant parents. And I have parents who are from India, and the conversations about mental health were basically like non-existent to them growing up. So and I like during COVID, I was like, listen, all of my friends are going through these like mental health issues. It's something that I've gone through. It's something that they were also probably going through. They just didn't know it. And like I could see that in them. And it was just like, what? Like, no, what is that? That's not even a thing. And I think what's so interesting about that generational gap that's happened between my generation versus like my parents and that immigrant generation is that mental health awareness has now been brought up, and its challenge now is getting to convince them to understand the importance of it, and saying like mental health care is just as important as like physical health care, and also like why we need that, and why that can be helpful. And I think that conversation has been something that I've had with my parents, and I know I've encouraged my friends to have with their parents, just because it, like you said, it's very prevalent, especially in teenagers. And when that preventative care isn't happening, it can definitely fester into worse things. And I think having that as like a common treatment conversation in a household is something that definitely like it needs to be more out there, needs to be more, the awareness needs to be higher.
Yeah.
How did you have that conversation with your parents and get your parents to understand where you were coming from and understand and see your depression? Did they even see it and realize, okay, she's having some issues and we need to do something about it? Or was it as our situation was, just grow up, get past it, you're gonna be all right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think like with me, it was also a journey with them. And I remember like very early on in my journey, it was like, oh, like that's not like people look down on that almost like getting mental health care. Like you don't need mental health care unless you're like crazy, right? Which is like not a word that should be used,
Yeah.
but that's what people think. And it's like crazy, but I think one like again with COVID, I think that really was a conversation that needed to happen, and I think they realized that it was really important. And also weirdly, because I said that physical health is also just as important as mental health, but I think they also realized the importance of those two relations. And after seeing like health complications within our families, um, like their families back in India and stuff like that, we focused a lot during COVID on like our physical health as well. And especially my mom, she actually became a nutritionist, like a nutrition coach after COVID happened. And she was the first one that came to me and she was like, if you need therapy, like you should go get therapy.
Wow.
Because if
Yes.
I, yeah, because she realized like she couldn't become more fit and she couldn't become like a wellness coach and like a nutrition coach if she wasn't mentally
Right.
stable enough to do that and
Mm-hmm.
mentally healthy enough to do that. And those two things, like you just can't have one without the other. And so I think those two factors playing hand in hand, kind of grew like it progressed that journey with my parents and myself, obviously.
So how had and you can jump in for any
Okay.
questions that you may have, and we're going to open it up to our audience here in just a second. But okay, so you started understanding your mental health when you were in high school, and now you're in college. How has how been that mental stability from getting the help that you needed? How has that transitioned and helped you as college, being a college student and adjusting to all the things that come along with growing? Because I wouldn't be 28, 21 again to save my life. But because of all the things that you all go through, how has that helped you find a steady, solid foundation and help your other friends in school?
Yeah. I think that's definitely something that a lot of people struggle with, even if we're like, as you said, like mentally stable. And I think there are times, especially when academics get really tough
Mm.
and certain
Mhm.
semesters are really, like the course load is a lot and stuff like that, where you feel like it's a lot and the anxiety can definitely be overwhelming. But I think one of the things that, again, really grounded me mentally was how and so once I did, like in middle school and high school, once I found those core group of people that I knew I could
Yeah.
trust and
Yeah.
rely on,
Mhm.
those tough times felt really inconsequential in the big picture. And so even though it was like transitioning to college is a stressful time. And I think
Yeah.
research shows that like it's one of the most stressful transitions someone can go through, second to becoming a parent. So
Mm.
Wow.
it's a very tumultuous
That's
period
Interesting.
of our life. Yeah, it's
mm.
crazy. And I think dealing with that is going to be difficult for anyone, because again, we have that anxiety that stems from not knowing what's going to happen in the future. But I think just the willingness to like surrender to that unknowingness and knowing that literally everyone else is in the same boat as you.
Uh-huh.
No one else comes to college like knowing what their future is going to look like
Yeah.
and what if like not a lot of people have friends and stuff like that. Like everyone starts with a very clean slate. And I think the willingness to put yourself out there is really difficult, but it pays off in the end. And right now, I can say that for a fact because a lot of my friends, I have like same classes with them and stuff, and we go through the same like struggles and difficult classes and exams and whatnot. But the fact that I get to talk with them about it, and the fact that we get to like study together and just have like those memories that stick with you, that help you get through those tough times, I think is what ultimately it's like that support that kind of again makes you reflect on the bigger picture, and that's like, oh, like this is just one test or this is just one class. And it's not as important as the great memories that I'm gonna make here. So yeah.
You are very way well-rounded than I was. I'm sitting there like, wow, I couldn't even put it together then. My brain was so all over the place. And so you're working with Bridging the Gap Foundation. Can you talk a little bit about what it is that you're doing with the foundation and how that has impacted you?
Yeah, of course. So, just a little bit of background. I am an emotional wellness coach. So, we started working under the supervisor, Dr. Monique Thompson. She's from back home where I am from. She's a local therapist, and so she took on a couple of like us college students to help provide like emotional care, affordable and just like an accessible resource for teen girls. Just because again, like I said, that's a time when mental health care and preventative care is really important in terms of development and stuff like that. But then she got us in contact with Bridging the Gap, which again is an amazing nonprofit foundation that kind of works in the same mission statement of providing accessible mental health care to people that need it and don't have access to it. And so working with them has been really helpful. And we've just been right now providing extra resources like with flyers and infographics and just basic mental health care, facts and tips, and again, more resources that people that hopefully come across Bridging the Gap can get these like supplemental helps about mental health care, but then also just about Bridging the Gap and other ways they can get mental health care. And again, we are a resource. Mental or emotional wellness coaches are another resource. So yeah, it's been a really interesting project that we get to work on just because I think it connects that gap between like all the different resources that are available that maybe not a lot of people know about. And so just creating those resources and information that can get out to a lot of a wide variety of people that need it.
And I just want to say, Meera, you and your colleagues, your team, whatever, they have done an unbelievable, phenomenal job in creating that information, like she said, bridging that gap, something that we didn't realize that we needed, and then now that we have because of them, because of their vision, because of their creativity, they have put together some unbelievable infographics. So, girl, I bow to you, and I want to say thank you for your help. And I'm glad you guys are a part of the team. I'm glad you're part of the team.
That is absolutely awesome. And you are a wow. That's about all I have to say is wow. You are awesome. We are going to open it up. We're going to open up the to the audience so that anybody who has any questions, we're going to go ahead and drop them in the comment. And since we've been having some issues with our sound tonight, we're not even going to take a break. We're going to go straight on. Okay. I have a few questions while they're dropping their questions in the chat. And this is a question for the both of you. I want both of you to answer it. What is one thing that going to therapy and getting into therapy has helped you do that you believe you wouldn't have been able to handle outside of it?
You want to go first, Meera?
Sure. Yeah, I can go first. So I think taking care of my mental health personally, I think has again opened my eye to a lot of like ways that preventive care can be multifaceted. Um, like seeing it obviously with my parents, but then also like implementing that in my own life. I don't think I could have, um, you know, become physically like fit and like taking self-care, honestly, wouldn't have been something that
Yeah.
I considered important without realizing or like realizing the problems with my mental health, but then also getting help for that. Because I think my priorities were definitely so much different before. And compared to right now. So I think, yeah, like self-care is like so much higher than it used to be on my, things that I need to make
Yeah.
sure that I'm doing.
And for me, I think it's really I have really learned to acknowledge and recognize my worth. Because I mean, I have no problem being supportive and being there for everybody else. Uh, Call me, I'm on my way. I want to do that. But I had a big problem recognizing that I too have some value. And I don't know, I took it as, I don't want to be selfish, but I realized the fact that, there are some things that that I have accomplished, some things that I have done that are praiseworthy. It's okay to have that gratitude or that attitude of gratitude has really helped me in those times when society makes me think. My pastor used to say it like this: have you ever felt so little that if you sat on the sidewalk, your feet wouldn't touch the ground? So yes. So because of that, I can't, I don't care what happens, it's gonna happen, but I still got some worth in the midst of all of this chaos. I still have worth.
And because that's one of the things that therapy helped me grab a hold to, and it's almost heartbreaking that you have to go through, have a breakdown, or get into therapy to realize that you know what, you have worth.
You have worth, and you're right. It shouldn't take that we are broken, but a lot of times that's what it takes for us to realize that you're more than what you think you are. And again, not being conceited, but everybody's watching this. You got worth. Know that you got worth.
Okay, this question is to the both of you. What is your favorite daily task or way to cope with mental health struggles? Going on walks, reading a book. What is something that you do daily to help you cope with your mental health struggles? Meera, we're going to take you first.
Okay, yeah. Well, not Dr. Yeah, almost Dr. LeBlanc was kind of touching on this already, but I think gratitude is so important, and that's something that I've started to do with coping, and that's maybe not something that a lot of people think about because it's like just saying, oh, like I'm grateful for this and this, but like how does that solve my problems? But I think when you incorporate gratitude into your everyday life, it's like it becomes like a habitual thing where it almost changes your thought process, like just automatically. Because I think a lot of us are trained um, because of life or whatever, like our automatic responses and automatic thoughts to a lot of situations that happen in life are negative. Um, in the psychology therapist sense, they're called like ants, so automatic negative thoughts. And so I think with gratitude, it's like again, it's not like an immediate kind of result, like, oh, like I have anxiety and being grateful is going to immediately cure that. But I think when you incorporate that in like as a intentional practice, it's something that long term is like you don't even realize it, but it's like instinctual almost how like positive your outlook becomes on life. And but yeah, and then also just like Yeah, I like indulging in like reading and stuff before going to bed. I think it calms me down and like just find joy that are like stress relievers.
Yeah.
Is it's always nice. That's just like an extra thing that I like
Yeah.
to say, but definitely gratitude is number one.
Meera, I'm gonna have to agree with our audience. You really are awesome.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just so impressed.
Yeah.
So impressed. Okay, Dr. Patrick, I know that I asked you that question. I want you to answer that question.
Okay.
Okay. But I want to make sure that I get this question in.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Patrick, would there ever be a time to have any sessions through your nonprofit to talk about passed down trauma in the African American community? We hide so many things and it continues to embody itself into our future generations. Example, boys don't cry and girls don't tell. Therefore, being clinically diagnosed with some things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things what we're trying to do. We do have right now currently we're having a courageous conversation that we have with men. We have it once a month and we talk about, I'm telling you, this puts the barbershop to shame. All the stuff that we talk about. To answer her question, we're trying to create a safe, non-judgmental place where you can be transparent, you can be vulnerable, and you won't have to worry about having any repercussions. And so since I've met Meera, we're trying to develop one of those for females, specifically adolescents, early 20 females, that we can do the same, where they can have that environment where they can come and just release. I don't have to be worried about how this person is going to perceive me, how this person is going to judge me. And that's why I'm really transparent with my story, because I want these men to see here's another African-American man, strong man, but I'm not fearful of being vulnerable. I'm not fearful of being transparent, because we need to release that. Back to your question, some of the things that we need to do. She talked about self-care. She talked about gratitude. You need to release it. You need to get it off your chest. Again, my friend Paul Conway, he talks about trash day. Anybody know what trash day is? Tomorrow morning is trash day in Duncanville. Get all the paper plates, water bottles, food, and put it on the side of the curb. Take out the trash. My question, when was the last time you took out the trash in your life? You need to have a trash day. Okay, so that's that release. And I love the garden. I mean, so I'm outside. I got mustards and turnips right now. Yum, yum, come get some. Come get some. Yeah. So that's me, Meera. So thank you.
Okay. How do you handle people who think that therapy is for weak people?
Non-judgmental, gentle. For whatever reason, that's the ideology they have. And for whatever reason, I'm trying not to talk down on that, to make them think that whoever put this in there, but I'm trying to show them a better way. It doesn't happen overnight. And sometimes it's very frustrating because of me seeing what happened to me and not wanting that for anybody else. I have a sense of urgency that, hey man, I can see this. Let's get into therapy. The foundation focuses on early intervention, early identification, so we can get somebody into help before you got to call the police or before you showing up. Yeah, okay. So it's frustrating at times, but we have to just walk gentle, prayer, and just ask that their eyes be open before something detrimental happens.
We got to wrap up here. Okay. Because I want to make sure that I have time to let our eyes for you to talk about the big event that Bridging the Gap has coming up. But real quick, because you just said something, early prevention and being able to identify those early signs. Can you just briefly talk to our audience about some things that you can be on the lookout for? Like what is like make me aware of early signs?
Okay, there are 4 domains that we kind of need to pay attention to. And you think about the brain, you think about behavior. Has this person, I know Shantae, this is just not her. She's not acting. So then we talk about what we can see. Signs we can see, symptoms we can't see. But we talk about signs, these are things we can visibly see. Not being disheveled, hygiene issues. There's a decline in things like that. So then let's talk about feelings. You see that sad face and you see the happy face. All of a sudden it's just sad. Got a sense of worthlessness. I'm always worried. Always sad. So these are things we can see. So then the fourth one is how we think. Literally how we think. My life has no meaning. They say things, but a lot of times we're just not attuned to thinking that this may be a mental health issue. You know what? He's trying to get your attention, or she's trying to get your attention. I'm sure, Meera, they know who the drama queen is. They know that. So my thing is, give it to them. Give them the attention that they're craving, because this time they may be serious. So those four domains: the behavior, appearance, how they think, and then the fourth one, how they appear, their appearance. Okay. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So talk to me real quick, because coming up in February, Bridging the Gap has an event, and this is a way, if you have been inspired tonight about what Bridging the Gap is doing, you can help and support. Talk to us real quick, about 2 minutes.
Okay, this is our third annual Mardi Gras Masquerade Gala. I'm from Louisiana. Mardi Gras is king, and so we're gonna have a Mardi Gras Masquerade Gala. It's going to be February the 9th, downtown Dallas at the Art District's mansion. And what we want to do, guys, is we want to unmask the stigma of mental health. And your ticket purchase, your donations, all the proceeds go toward us making sure that when that phone rings, we can be able to make sure we can fund somebody in the therapy.
Yes.
So tickets on sale right now. This is our third annual. The first year, guys, tickets sold out in 9 days. And so we're we're anticipating having about 250, 300 people there. Wow. And so you're welcome. Come, you can learn more about the foundation, and we can just have some Mardi Gras time in downtown Dallas. That's what we're going to do.
And the website for our audience who can't see you can
go to www.btgf.org, and there you will see a tab that says Masquerade Gala, and you click that tab and you can see everything.
I'm excited. I'm going to be there. Are you going to be there?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Meera. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule. I know school is starting. Thank you for coming and joining us on the show on this evening. It has been an absolute honor and delight just talking with you. You are an amazing individual.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Keep going, girl. The sky's the limit. There's some great things in store for you. You're going to help a lot of people.
Yes, you are.
You two are very inspirational.
And Mr. LeBlanc, you are absolutely... You have become one of my favorite people.
Oh, God.
Thank you so much for coming and sitting down with me and allowing Next Level to share your story and the work that Bridging the Gap is doing. And we are here and committed to helping however way we can.
We appreciate the partnership and looking forward to great things together.
All
right.
I want to thank our audience for joining us on this evening. I want to let you know next week we're going to continue this conversation on the importance of mental health and the impact that it has on our life. So make sure you join us. We will be joined by LaDonna Harlan and Calandria Rogers, who is another young lady working with the Bridging the Gap Foundation.
Yeah.
So make sure you join in. And later on in the month, we have Dr. Monique Thompson, who is going to be joining us on the show. We have some great guests coming up, all about mental health and helping us get to a place where we are mentally, emotionally, I say physically and spiritually stable, helping to bridge the gap in our community. Until next week, I want to let you know that I love you and I appreciate you, and I'll see you later.